it can quite often be the case that you want to combine two independent lists into like an every combination type list. So that might be categories and months of the year, might be, as I've got, a category and like a region. And what I want to do is see like every category for every region, and then I can use it in a report or something. Okay, you're in luck because I've got three ways of doing this: the really fast way, the really slow way, and then the slow but has some useful bonuses way. Let's go. Right, I'm going to start with the really fast way because surely that's what you want to know. But before I do, let me just tell you what the really slow way is, and that is doing it manually. Now, if I copy and paste all of this over here and then take the first one and paste it down to there and then do the same again, there we go. And I think you can see that it's not going to take me a heck of a long time to get to 136, but it's tedious. But what if I introduce another list? Maybe it's only 4 items on it, but even with only 4 items, we're now up to 544 rows, right? And if I introduced a fifth, it'd be 600 and something, right? You don't want to be copying and pasting manually, yeah? That is for your complete Excel laggards. Don't be one of them. Get it going super fast. So how are we going to get it going super fast? Right, fastest way. Power Query. Never used Power Query? Don't worry, no problem at all. Even if you have used Power Query, I bet you've not quite seen this. You don't need to know anything about Power Query to use this method. All you need is your lists. You can download this spreadsheet. The queries are in it anyway, so if you need a reminder. First prerequisite for Power Query, get everything in a table. So you can Control F1 to unhide the ribbon. Now you can go Insert Table. So I do that, Insert Table. I hit OK. It looks hideous. Luckily, you can change the style, so I'll keep it on my orange. And also you can right click on that and set it as a default. Fine. Okay, rather than go Insert Table, Control T, even faster method. Make sure, of course, your table has headers. Hit OK, because I defaulted that super quick. This one, Control T, no mouse, Enter. Fastest way. Do all three like that, hey? Okay, we've got all our tables. What are they called? Oh, Table 1, Table 2, Table 3. Completely optional this step, but I would definitely rename them so that you know which is which. So Table 3, right, TBL, give them a nice short name as well. Cust segs, descriptive but short. Why do I want them short? Because when they end up in formulas or you end up in queries and things, you don't want some like massive descriptor that you're going to have to type in or make your formulas look really complicated. Keep them short. Again, Table 2, TBL regions. This one, Prodcats even. There we go, got consistent naming convention. Now what? Right, put them in Power Query. How do you do that? Well, you could go get data from other sources from table, pointless amount of clicks. You could hit on that from table range. This will launch it in here. Ignore everything on screen right now apart from this. Close and load 2. And we're going to say only create a connection, because we're going to use Power Query to combine this stuff. We don't need it as a table or a pivot table or anything. Hit OK. Now I've got these queries and connections come up in a little box. You might have them over at the right hand side like that, but you can drag it around. I'm going to put it there. If you can't see it at all, it means that on the data menu here, you can toggle it on and off with this button. So that was the first one. Second one then, this time we can use the Alt key to bring up the shortcut letters A and PT. Now it's a bit of a cumbersome shortcut, but if you want to be a non-mouse purist and save some serious time in Excel, that's it. Same thing though, close and load 2, only create the connection, OK. Alright, so that's that one. So Alt A again, PT. This time let's be a purist. So we got Alt H, C, and then we can just use the arrow keys and enter to get it to that. And then the letter O will only create a connection and hit OK. So a few optional bonus kind of shortcut tips in there. Right, we've got 3 tables, they're all just lists, they're all in Power Query here. What are we going to do? We need to get our combined list, because this is the beauty of it. Right, first off I'm going to duplicate that first one. I did right click and then duplicate for that. And we've got the exact same thing launched in the Power Query editor. Click F2 in there, or you can just double click to get the name, and I'm going to call this combined list. Lists, in fact. Okay, right. Now what I want to do is add the other two, so the regions and the customer segments, to this. And this is actually pretty straightforward. So we'll go add column, custom column. Okay. And let's add the regions first. So region equals. What does it equal? I'm going to start typing the table name. And because all my tables I've prefixed with TBL, they'll all come at the start. TBL regions. Anything special? No, that's it. Hit OK. There we go. Right. It's on the list there. Okay. Next one. This one, what was this? Customer segment. What does it equal? Again, TBL. Where's it gone? Actually, we just need to scroll up a bit. It's there. Customer segments. Hit OK. Big deal. What have we got so far? Well, we're only a couple of clicks of a button away. It's this button here. Click it. Ignore everything for the moment. Hit OK. Ignore everything. Hit OK. Look at that. Here's our 500 and whatever combo list. Completely done. All we need to do now is go home, close and load 2. And this time we're going to output it into our sheet. So we want to do table, existing worksheet there. Hit OK, and there we go. And let's just change the output color. We'll have it blue. Hold on, we'll have it blue. And this is it. This is it. This is our 500 and whatever rows. We've got all our combinations. Brilliant, right? Couple of minor perfectionist points though that I think are worth correcting. First off, look at that. Odd column heading, region.region, customer segment.customer segment. That's not what we wanted to call it, was it? So let's sort that out. So back on here, we'll have our queries and connections. Here's our combined list. So we can right click on that and edit. And up here, so we've got several choices here. So first off, we could double click in there and just change the heading and hit enter. And that's fine, you know, nothing wrong with that. But what we could do, if we click on this one here, you'll see over on the right hand side, all our Power Query steps have been recorded. And if we go back to customer segment, which was where we expanded that one, you'll see in the formula bar here. Now you don't need to understand this formula other than you can see where on this bit here we've got customer segment dot customer segment, and so just by removing that there and hitting enter, we rename our column and we don't create an extra step in the process. This renaming one, if I delete that for example, you'll see we get region. But if we go back here and just change that, it's called region, and we've effectively just edited the code, but we've not put any more steps into our process. So we can save out of that, and when we come back in, it's basically put in our new list with our new headings. Now, as a bit of best practice here, because we put it on the same sheet as other tables, it's kind of shifted things across, and we don't really want to be messing about like that. So I'd always say put an output from a Power Query normally onto a brand new sheet. You just get a smoother experience. That's all well and good, right? But you might say, well, you know, the problem is this is just sort of straight data, so will it update? Yes, brilliant. Great question. Yes, it will. Because if I put in here, Excel Speed Freaks or something, right, as a new customer segment, we've now got 5 customer segments. All we do is refresh this, so we could go data, click on there and refresh all, or Control Alt F5, instantly Excel Speed Freaks is appearing all the way down, and as you can see we have 600 and something odd rows, so we've definitely cracked it. Absolutely brilliant. What if we took it back out again? So let's just delete that. I would always say do a Control minus on the table to actually remove the row. Again, back down. That was Control Alt F5 to refresh. So it's like a refreshable list. Brilliant. I recommend Power Query. I also recommend, if you're into saving massive amounts of time in Excel, hit that subscribe button, hit like on this video as well. You'll get recommended more like it. Fastest way, there it is. Why on earth would you continue watching to find a slower way than that? I'll tell you why. Because this is a total black box, and if you're giving your spreadsheet to someone that doesn't know about Power Query, perhaps isn't so advanced in Excel, they're going to look at this and think, you know, where did this come from? It obviously was created manual. I now have a completely, 10 new products I've got to go through and do all this manually, and they won't know to hit refresh. Another reason why you might not be keen on giving sort of Power Query models to sort of Excel newbies is they can do things that sort of mess it up. You saw how sort of quirky it was, like pushing across column headers and things like that. But what if I sort of said, let's just change that customer segment. I don't like it being called segment. I'm going to call it customer type, and hit enter. Well, then if there's even if they know that they've been told that they've got to refresh it, and they hit refresh, and now all of a sudden it's gone completely blank, yeah? And I think, but they might not spot that straight away. I mean, obviously I did that straight off. I typed that in and then refreshed it, and it went blank. And it's because it does Power Query is using everything by its sort of name. So it's looking for a list called customer segment, and then using that, and it can't find it, so it's just giving you nothing. And it could have given you errors or all sorts of stuff. And you might not, like I say, somebody might not spot that for ages and wonder what on earth they've done. So if you are giving models to people with Power Queries, then you've got to make sure that they're not the kind of person that does stuff like that. And also, my tip from myself is that if you are going to pull tables into Power Query and then do stuff with them, make 100% sure that you've got decent column headings before you start, because I've gone down the road of making some quite complex models and then thought, do you know what, that's a really badly named column. change the name, and then you've got to work through all your queries, and you've got to follow it through all your queries, changing that name. And especially if you've been using like code and formulas in Power Query, it could be a real headache. So get your table names right at the start. In order to make your spreadsheet much easier to follow for people that are perhaps a bit newer to Excel or need to sort of work their way through it and maybe going to need to edit it in the future a lot, you could use a formula-based system for coming up with these lists, and this is probably what most people would try and default to. So I'm going to give you a few pointers on how you might go about this, but really what I want to get here or get across is my kind of way of thinking about how to create these kinds of formulas. I've not got some like perfect solution here for you. It works. There's probably numerous ways of doing the same thing, so hopefully this might give you a few tips and a couple of new functions that you can throw in the mix, right? So I would always argue that you want to make your data lists into tables, because it just has masses of advantages. You can look them up if you want, but essentially it means that things are going to update automatically if lists get longer or shorter. That's a key benefit, but it also makes formulas easier to read. So I'm just going to do that, Control T on each of these. I've previously set it up as the default, as you saw, so that's nice and simple. And then, right, we've got to think, well, what are we trying to achieve here? We want 544 rows, which is just the number in each list multiplied together. And in the first one, we're going to need it to go sort of all 17, and then the next, and then the same 17 again, etc., all the way down. And then the region, probably just like the first one for 17 rows, then the next one, and customer segment is going to be effectively whatever this times this, so it's only going to change every 136 rows. So perhaps we could use those numbers inside if statements or something like that. We could put 1 on each row to start with, and then kind of count up from that. And if it's so, put equals, let's perhaps say if that equals the 17, and lock that in with F4. Then we want a number 1, otherwise we just want that plus 1. We could do that. That's going to work, right? Oops, just wanted to drag that down to demonstrate. Yeah, going, and then you could say on here, well, and then for the region we could kind of do something similar, but we could say that if that equals 1, then we'll do 1 plus whatever the row above said, otherwise we'd just do the row above. And that will unfortunately equal an error there, but if I overtype that with the 1, you can see it changes to 2. And you might think, well, what we're going to do with these numbers? Well, we can, we'll be able to use them inside indexes or match functions, something like that. So you could do this. Now, another way of doing it though would be to perhaps a bit more organized, so you don't have any sort of hard-coded entries, would be to use something like the row function. So I'm just going to do that. So the row of, say, the row above minus the row of the actual total. All right. And that's going to give you like a continuous count. What we could do is wrap that in the mod function. The mod function, will give you the remainder when you divide it by something. So what we want is 18 to show up as number 1, really. So if we divide that by the 17 up here, we'll do that. Now obviously, bear with me, we're getting 0 to 16, and then 0, we'll get 0 to 16 each time. So we can just add 1 to the result of that, and now we're getting R1 to 17. So that's probably a bit more elegant, and the reason it's a bit more elegant, is because you could turn this into a table, and I probably would argue that you should, And if you do that, having the same formula in every single row means that they will just copy down when you expand the table. You don't need to be entering the formula or dragging it down. So it's kind of useful thing to do. And anyway, I would always argue that best practice is not to have some sort of hard-coded number there, followed by like a formula. It's all right if you're using a spreadsheet once or whatever, but the whole point of doing these formulas is because we want to pass this spreadsheet on to other people, yeah? And so we don't want them messing it up, you know, and going, oh, there's a formula missing now. I just dragged that up there. And, oh no, what have I done? You know, and messing about. So clunky to have that, but it's all right, yeah. This much better. All right, how would you do the same thing kind of here though? Let's just get rid of that and get rid of the formatting. Again, the same kind of formula. I'm just going to copy and paste it over. Hit F2 so we can see kind of what's being highlighted here. If I move that one over there, move that one over there. Right, this is going to give me some kind of count of 1 to 8. Yes, it does. You can see it continuously going up to 8 and changing. But that's not what we wanted, was it? We wanted a 1 all the way to there, and then we only want it to go to 2 when we see a 1 again. So we can put this inside an if statement. Again, if that equals 1, then we're going to do this formula, right? Can't with the next remainder. Otherwise, we're just going to say it's the same as the row above. Yeah. Hit enter there. So that will give us a 1 there. And when we go down, you can see that's worked. It's given us a 1 all the way to that number 17. And then it starts on a 2. And if I moved that down like that, you'd see, and we go to 3, we go to 4, etc, etc. So that's good. So we could do something like that. This is all fine, right? And I've already done it. And I've created these index columns on the front here so that we can do that. And I've just cheated on the last cell there just for simplicity, because I want to show you the next step. What is the next step? Well, it's put it as an index. Now, if you're not familiar with the index function, all we're going to do is we're going to use this first one here. We're going to pick an array, which is a bunch of cells, and we're going to say what row number we want. Now, look at this. This is why we've got our numbers, our index numbers. So what's our array for the product category? Well, because we put it as a table, we can just click over like that. On the top, it's given us our total table there. Hit the comma. Here's our product category index number, which is that. And off we go. Now, if I change that to a table, well, we don't want it orange, do we? So we change it to blue. And incidentally, when you do that, it says B5, for example, there. And the only way I found is changing that is to go back in there and click on it. But now, when you hit enter, it'll just automatically put that all the way down. So we'll start as we mean to go on with region. So again, index, hitting tab by the way to get those quickly. Click on that table, comma, and we have our region index number. Close the brackets, parentheses, hit OK. So I hit enter. Same thing, customer segment, index, tab, customer segment index, close the parentheses, hit enter. We've got it right. Brilliant. And the only problem is with this is that we're now going to have to kind of copy and paste down a few extra rows, and we'll see that it's all sort of repeating here and it all looks fine. Or does it? Now, we end up here with ref. And the reason that we end up with ref is because we've used this obscure formula, or this sort of shortcut formula here that just keeps adding and adding. And the problem with that is it doesn't know where to end. So even though there's only 4 items at the bottom, it's all the way up to sort of 6. So we could take a bit of a kind of shortcut approach and say we just want to blank everything below a certain number. So we could try that. We could say, well, if this customer index here is greater than this list length over here, then give me nothing. Otherwise, give me that index. And then we could do the same on here. So in fact, I might as well just take that little bit from the front, put it in there, save a bit of time. And same here, Control Home to get the beginning of the formula, Control V to paste it, Control N to the end of the formula, hit the brackets and enter. Now, when we go down, we'll see we only have blanks after where would have been an error. Solution sorted, right? Let's just put in our new customer segment now, intermediate Excellers, yeah? Because I don't think this is a brilliant idea. Intermediate Excellers, have we got them all? Let's have a look. Yeah, we got enough. Now, of course, if we then put in, let's just, so we've got that. So it does work, providing we got enough rows, but the danger, of course, is that we put in test, and test 2, and test 3, and now what happens? Well, we've not got test 1 and test 2 and test 3 in there. We've got to drag this down, and the trouble is we don't know how far to drag it down either. So we've got to keep going, and we're still only on test 2, you know, so still only on, and we've got to basically keep dragging until we get some blank rows. There we go, and now we know we've made it. It's okay, but again, you know, the whole purpose of this is giving it to somebody else. That's why we went down this formula road. Now we've got to write instructions, you know, make sure you drag down the table and everything. I don't know, I'm not a massive fan. So this is just being shown to you as a potential alternative if you need your spreadsheet to be audited by people who are using kind of formulas. They can work their way around formulas, but they've no idea about Power Query. So it's an alternative way of kind of automating it. But there's a bit, as you've seen, a bit of manual stuff still to do, dragging down kind of rows, things like that. I recommend Power Query. I also recommend, if you're into saving massive amounts of time in Excel, hit that subscribe button, hit like on this video as well. You'll get recommended more like it. See you soon.